And here we are. I'm excited for tonight. I'm telling you. That's all sorts of stuff.
Ta-da! Like
hey,
magic.
You're good. I just wanted to make sure I'd unmuted you, Pete. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we
all
definitely.
right.
You're good. You're good. I hear you.
Okay. No Cylon sabotage.
Nope. But tonight's really special because tonight we're going to talk about how the Cylons took over the colonies.
No, we're not.
That's not tonight?
That's not tonight. That's not going to be, I don't think, anytime soon.
Anytime
Chris.
soon, huh?
No. You need to disengage that second, third brain that you think you have.
Face it. We destroyed your colonies and you guys ran away.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Come on.
I think that you are delusional. Do you have a fever? Is that what it is?
I got a fever,
and
not. The only solution is more colonial deaths.
Oh, man. I thought you were going to say cowbell, but I guess not. Okay. That would have been wishful thinking. You are one morbid buddy, man. I don't know.
Hey,
anyway.
When it comes to annihilation, Cylons do it good.
Okay, well, anyway.
Need a colony annihilated? Call the Cylons. We'll take care of it for you.
You know what? I think what we need to do is just call Commander Kane and we'll put a check to all of this. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And Silver Spar Squadron. Yeah. You keep no, he's not. Anyway, no, he's not. So Chris, we have our whole bunch of stuff. Actually, we have a few things that we wanted to quickly bring up. But before we do that, right, we traditionally have a toast. And let's welcome everybody to the show. Welcome everybody to Interfleet Broadcasting, our sci-fi news and entertainment program and show. And my name is New York Pete, and my buddy, my co-anchor, co-host, co-producer is right over that way.
Just do this next time. We'll be set.
Chris, listen, go ahead, man. Come on.
Hey, everybody. I'm your local resident Cylon. But I'm the Tipsy Toaster, and no, I'm not drunk. I just like the name Tipsy Toaster. But anyways, welcome to our show, and we're going to have a really good time tonight. Once again, like Pete was saying, we're going to start off, we start everything off with a toast to all the fans. We really think that the fans fuel the fleet. Feet. Wow. And I haven't been drinking. Okay. The fans fuel the fleet.
Take another shot. That's what you need.
Maybe
to
I
get,
should be
one
drinking.
More shot.
Maybe I should be drinking.
I think
so. So we think that if it wasn't for the fans, that the fandom would dry up. And we really want to make sure that everybody is good to go with Battlestar Galactica and all of the other great 70s, 80s, and even some 90s sci-fi, as well as some of the new stuff, even. But we really think that if it wasn't for you, we'd still be talking. There's no doubt about it. Pete and I would still be talking about stuff, but wasn't for you, the fandoms would die. We wouldn't have cons. We wouldn't have anything else. And, producers wouldn't produce movies, and we wouldn't have people wanting to recreate Battlestar Galactica like 4 times. Yes.
Franchise.
Yeah. But this time the Cylons are going to win. But anyways.
Cylons are not going to win.
We like to toast you. So, Pete, you ready? We'll go ahead and raise our glasses to all you great fans out there. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a fan. And here's to you. Fans fuel the fleet.
Fans fuel the fleet. Okay. Well, Chris, we'd be doing this one way or the other, but with the fans, it makes it a lot better. So welcome Lola and George and Keith. Thanks for tuning in. George says do a tequila shot right after, as soon as we get off the air and we hit Chris's new setup. We'll get a tequila shot. In the meantime, as we build up to a special guest that we have tonight, how about we just go real quick? Chris mentioned that we put up a post and it had to do with the Saturn Awards. And I'm sure that a lot of the fans, they'll know what that is, right? It's an industry award program, and it's been around for decades. And it really does focus on a lot of the sci-fi stuff, fantasy stuff. It's a slightly different than the regular awards that are out there. and we are going to be monitoring, the nominations, and then obviously announcing some of the awards. So we wanted to try to, see what everybody's opinion is. So we're going to follow those Saturn Awards. There was also a 10 best sci-fi TV shows, and Battlestar was on that list, and we were pleasantly surprised for that. We also posted something on Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. That's the Captain Pike show that's coming up, and Aston Mount had a short little video with some of the other members of the show, and they did a little spot that we put up. Is really, really cool. And Chris, I think we are going to then announce, I guess, our 10 centons with found colonies of fans. Yes. And our first show is the premiere show for that. We have a guest, and that's the Mediocre Modeler. And one other reveal is that we have a new team member. Tiny Bean is going to join us, and she's going to be doing reviews. She's reviewing premieres of, first episodes of various shows, and she's going to give us her impression and let us know what she thinks, whether or not it's worth our time to delve into the series, whether it's a season or not, or more current, old, past. We're going to have someone, reviewing. So, hey, what the heck, So join us on our next show for that. And Chris, I guess the last thing I'm going to bring up is the fact that we want everyone to be aware that we're going to pick up with the next book, which is this Battlestar Galactica 2, The Cylon Death Machine.
Yeah, right? What a title.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I got to do this right. We got to do this right.
Right. Come on. Yeah, no. That's the leprechaun in you. There you go. There you go.
Was really scary. If that Cylons talked like that, I'd shoot him too.
Oh, yeah. As everyone else does. Starbuck and Apollo battle a planet of lost clones, mind slaves of the Cylon warrior Vulpa, who are aiming the ultimate weapon at the embattled Starfleet of humankind. Yes! The Ravishal Pulsar.
Vulpa was supposed to be a main character in a lot of different episodes. They didn't die in the Ravishal Pulsar explosion.
That's right.
Which, by the way, I totally believe was the Colonials' fault in regards to... It wasn't the Colonials' fault. I mean, it was probably a design fault because it was built by It was made by humans to begin with. So, the cooling tower, I have a lot of Cylon friends that died in that mountain.
Oh,
and
yes.
I think
this is your Alderaan.
Yeah, this should be the lawsuit for this. Yeah. Definitely a lawsuit.
So you have what about the losses on Carolon? That's okay. You forgot them.
They were slaves. Orions.
There was a base star that got blown up.
Yeah. The Ovions were, that's one base star. Come on. How many of those we got? We can rebuild those.
But the Ravishal, that Arcta, right? That's the world Arcta. Yeah. Arcta. Oh, I love the episode. So we're going to do
a fun time, and I'll tell you exactly how the Colonials sabotaged or didn't sabotage it, but it was just the design fault.
Sabotaged. Yes, we did. Fantastic. Love it. One of my favorites. So we're going to get into that. That's going to be our next book. So if anybody wants to get out there and, pick up the book, please do. And so we're going to do the book versus episode, and we'll start, picking apart some of the differences between the episode and what's written. And, we kind of enjoy doing that. And I think everybody else did when we started out. And so that's where we're going to go. So that's the future. Of course, we're going to have plenty of other things coming up. But I'm really, really happy to tell you that we have in the wings, we have a special guest, someone that's going to bring us a whole wealth of all kinds of knowledge, details, information. I mean, you guys are in for a treat. We were lucky enough to, reach out and, get this individual. And, Michael Wehrhan, thanks for being with us. I know that you're here and you're in the wings, you're in the green room, and welcome to IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. And Chris, you're going to press some magic buttons, I guess?
We're
and
good.
turn on
Hopefully his audio is
another
working.
audio. Yeah, let's get that audio
Hey,
up
Michael,
and running.
talk to us.
Hey, how are you guys?
Okay, we're good.
There we
got
go.
Michael. Okay.
There we go. Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. We are honored to have you on board. And you have a rich background. So whether it be in terms of a producer, whether it's directing, or you have very close links and ties to Richard Hatch, and we really appreciate coming. And you're going to you haven't interviewed in years, and we're going to be discussing a lot of Battlestar. We're going to talk about your projects, and you have a very, very interesting family legacy that we'd really appreciate hearing about. And let's see where it takes us, because there is a lot going on, and we want to know. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. It's nice to see some colonial brothers for once. It's been a while, couple of years, so say we all. Yeah, it's been a long journey, guys. It's been this is actually my first interview, and it's over 5 years. I kind of fell off the scene and put myself in work, and it's been a long haul. It really has. You guys kind of brought me out of my cocoon.
Yes.
Hopefully that's a good thing, right?
It is. But beware.
Yeah.
Beware. It comes with a price, Chris.
Yeah, that's it. So I made up a good graphic. Yeah, go ahead.
I have, so much information. I mean, we can go on for, 10, 15 shows. I mean, I haven't been around and talked to anybody or discussed anything. And, between me and Richard's projects and my projects and just, living with Richard for a long time, there's so much unknowns out there and so much that people don't realize and know, which is, why I'm here. I'm going to try to keep it to a point where, we don't get too far into his personal life in this, in this show. But, there's a lot I can share with you guys. So, as you guys, some people may know and some people may not know, I grew up in Jersey. And basically, my father ran the motion picture studios before Hollywood even started in California. And all those warehouses and studio lots, my father was running a company called Republic Pictures. And there was a bunch of executives running it. And I grew up on this in my childhood. I was the little kid that was running around the lots with his little mini bike and, hated to go to work with his father. It was quite interesting. And it was kind of boring at first to me, because back then it was a lot of silent films. So they'd be shooting on the lots. It was all MOS. There was no sound. It was a bunch of lights and a bunch of people on boring backdrops. And I didn't see the magic at that point, and it really took, I think, until I seen Star Wars to really bring that out of me to say, oh, wait a minute. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. Wow, that's kind of cool. But, it was difficult still making that transition from being hours and hours on set. And even when I did spend time on set, I was always at the craft service table because that's where all the candy was.
Oh, there you go.
And I'd be running around with my little lightsaber and, my Star Wars stuff. And I really wanted to go back home to, play with all my Star Wars figures and stuff. And I really didn't get, the whole thing. But some interesting facts about that, with a lot of people don't know. Back then, it was something called Nitrate Film. And Nitrate Film was how they made movies, with that type of film. And it was very explosive and very flammable. So the buildings that were out there were all kind of static-free buildings that you had to wear these containment suits that didn't create electricity or static electricity. So when I was about 10 years old, my dad had me employed at one of the buildings. And, he says, this is going to be your job and this is going to be your boss. I looked up, and I didn't know who he was from Diddley. You all know him as Joey Pantoliano from Goonies, okay?
Yeah.
And he says to me, "So, kid, you want to work, do you? you take good direction, or do you not take good direction, you know?" And, so they put a spacesuit on me, an all-white spacesuit. And they said, "Go out into Vault B and pull this film." So, to me, that was just weird back then. But I liked it because I got to wear a costume, and, everybody likes Halloween, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would go out there and I would pull the film and I would bring it back to Joe, and then Joe would package it up and send it to the studio or the networks so they can cut and splice it and put whatever was necessary together so they could, they could show that. Sometimes it was only used as footage for something, or sometimes it was an actual print for the theaters. So that was my job growing up at 10 years old. Now, my father, when he came out of the Korean War, he actually got into the movie business kind of young too. And he ran a lot of these facilities. And there was a point in time where Hollywood started to get the bug of nice weather. They want to go to California. So little by little, they started shifting in that direction. My dad took over all the warehouses and made them climate-controlled facilities for the film, because you have to keep it at current steady 72 degrees in cold vaults. So there was a bunch of refrigerated rooms throughout the warehouses. So I grew up on all of that. And then my dad eventually got MoMA as clients, and NASA and ABC and NBC News. And it was a huge operation. Then we started storing raw stock for Kodak. And so as I was growing up through all this, I kind of got the bug of the motion picture business. And there was one day that my father had said to me, there was a guy that was just in here, and, he's a producer director. And he said, he was noticing you, and he was interested in casting you for something, because you had producers and directors there all day long, and they would go through their material and so on and so forth. So I was really camera shy, and I kind of turned it down. I didn't want to do it. Then my dad said, "Look, we're going to put you in Barbizon." It was a modeling agency, so you get used to the camera. So I went for a couple of months to that, took pictures and headshots, and it still didn't sink in for me that I could be in that business. And, so I continued to work for my father, and I wound up creating a social network before the web was even, before it even existed, in the interior of the building. So clients, when they came to the building, they could go right to a computer and look up where their material was. And it was easier than going through a filing cabinet for the secretaries and looking at everything. So I guess that was about 14 or 15 years old that I was into coding, and I started that adventure. Eventually my dad got me an audition with a guy that was part of All My Children in ABC. And I went down to 30 West 66th Street in New York City, and I auditioned. It was really a simple thing. The guy spoke to me a little bit and says, "Great." He says, I'll give you a call. So I was like, all right. So the next day I'm telling all my friends, I'm going to be in a soap opera. I'm going to be in ABC. And, nothing happened. 6 months go by. Nothing happened. A year goes by. All of a sudden I get this call. I'm about 16, 17 years old, I think it was. And they said, "Report to set. Come to All My Children." So I get to All My Children, and there's a script sitting there. So I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I didn't have too much experience at this point, but I was going with the flow. And all I remember was looking up on the wall and seeing all these actors, 8x10s, looking at me. And the one out of 1,000 that I tend to draw myself straight to was Philip Brent. You know who that was? That was Richard Hatch's character on All My Children.
Oh,
it was Richard.
Yep.
Outstanding. Oh, wow.
I was just appalled by that, because, I grew up in 1978, the whole original Battlestar. it was a buddy film, and that's what I was all about, buddy
Right.
films. So, you know, that whole time, you know, from the time I seen that to the time I got that audition and actually got to know my children, I never forgot Richard and, you know, that whole direction that he played with Apollo and Starbucks and the buddy film, positive, you know, magical space science fiction. I just loved it. So
That's awesome.
it was kind of a weird thing. So at that point, I said to myself, you know, I did my, they call them under fives at the time. It's where you have under 5 lines. So when I went to All My Children, I had under 5 lines at that point. But I kept reoccurring. During this time, I said, you know what? Somebody put a bug in my head, and they said, you know, now that you're on the show, you know, you might want to look up Richard. So I was like, okay, so I'll look him up. But I never thought I'd be able to talk to him. So at this point in time, the internet just kind of was going commercial. And I went up online and searched his name and looked around. And there was this blog up online. And what was interesting was it was a total unknown person, no names, nothing. And he was listing, he needed help because he wanted to do some movie effects in his backyard. So I'm like, what is that all about, you know? So I started to text, and we back and forth. And this got into like a 9-hour conversation. And next minute I know it's 3:00 in the morning. And after I had told him that I just got off the set for All My Children, I get this, he says, send me a message to this number. It's a fax machine. So I sent him a message, and all of a sudden I get a message back on my fax machine. And now we're talking back and forth on faxes. So I remember at 3:00 in the morning, I got a fax, and it says, call this number. So I'm like, call this number? And it was the fax line. So I called it, and I got the CG tones, and it made all that noise.
Yeah.
So I hung up the phone, and I'm like, wait a minute, let me try this again. So I called again, and sure enough, this guy picks up the phone, and I had no knowledge that it was Richard. And we talked for another 3 hours. And he says, well, I got a surprise. I got something to tell you. And I said, what? He says, I'm Captain Apollo.
Wow.
You're Captain Apollo? I'm like, what? In the next masquerade or the next show? Yeah, I didn't realize it was really him. It took me a couple of days to really realize that it was him. And then we started going back and forth with visuals on a computer, talking to each other. And that's how our relationship started. And, it went from that day right until his last days. I mean, we spent a lot of time and obviously lived together. And, we had one of those bonds that you just click. You just click. It's you don't have to ask questions. It's you don't have to plan it out. You don't have to, try and make it happen, or the business end never spoiled the friendship. The friendship never spoiled the business end. And it seemed like by the way, this shot, I want to share something with you guys. So what's happening here is, one of the things about me and Richard is we couldn't stop laughing. We would get together and we would laugh. So this particular day, we're on a cruise ship, and this is later in our careers and stuff, and we're waiting for a bunch of friends for dinner. And we get out on the deck, and as you can see, it's in a closed area, but it's actually on the deck. So we sit in these seats, and we notice that the seats are rolling around back and forth. So Richard started moving them around. I started moving them around. Next minute I know, we have a full-fledged contest where we're rolling these seats all the way around the cruise liner. And what made it so special was that everybody was egging us on like it was a real race. And the funny thing is, this particular time there was wind, and a lot of wind. So when we got out of this enclosure here, the chairs automatically got pushed by the wind. So he'd be looking over at me, and I'd be looking over at him, and we'd be doing the yabba dabba do thing like Flintstones, and it was so funny. People are throwing stuff and go, and Richard never expected to have that time. I mean, I didn't either, but we wound up being center stage that day, and the party that came to meet us finally met us at the other end of the ship and said to us, "What just happened here?" I didn't know there was chair racing. We didn't know it either. So me and Richard had some really crazy times. And, one of the things that I kind of, which is kind of funny, is he spent, I don't know how many years knowing Dirk. And, Dirk loves to smoke cigars. Dirk's a cigar man. Richard didn't smoke cigars, he drank, but he didn't, smoke cigars. And when we first got together, I think it was in Vegas, we had to have a victory cigar. Boys will be boys. You know what I mean? We didn't inhale. You don't inhale cigars, right? So ever since that day, I can't tell you how many cigar bars we've been to. The ships, when we go on the cruise liners, or when we travel around, we're always going into the cigar bar, and he's having his cigar and his drink, and it was just something that we wound up doing after a while. I mean, we kind of traveled around the world, and it was like the go-to thing at night to do. But and we didn't overly do it or anything, but we had a crazy relationship, and I got pulled apart from that several times because I had my own career going on, and this shot happens to be, I think we're in St. John, and we're shooting Who the Frack, and it's funny what happened here. We're trying to decide who's going to drive the Jeep, because everybody knew that we were going to go on a Jeep safari. And we were shooting. We had cameramen with us, and we had Derek and Gene and a whole crew. But the funny thing is, when we got to where the Jeeps were, nobody had their licenses. So
boy,
it's like we were supposed to be driving these things. So me and Richard were left sitting there trying to figure it out, how we were going to do that, and that's why he's got that face. But so over the years, Richard and me, we got into with, before even Who the Frack and all that stuff, we got involved. He was so passionate about Battlestar Galactica. He was so passionate about that show. And I think what happened was he got on that show at the last minute. And I think it was like he found out the day that he found out, the next day he was already on set. And I remember him telling me that. And I think the original Battlestar was like 26, 27 episodes. So that went in a year's span. And he didn't even really get to enjoy it. It was there and gone. And then when it was canceled, he really, that was his life. That was everything to him. So when we met, he always wanted to do a reboot of something that had to do with the buddy film, the science fiction. He had that bug, and he didn't want it to end. So, he would talk to me about, different sci-fi scripts and getting involved with different things. And over the course of this time, I got out of the acting world, and I was doing a lot more producing on my own. Mostly martial arts films and stuff with China. And so I was really frequenting in, behind the camera more than I was in front of the camera. And I think Richard liked that a lot because I was versatile. I was going back and forth, and then I could collaborate with him as a filmmaker, not just an actor or as a producer or a director. So we got along really well, and every time we sat down, it was a different script, it was a different story, and we have tons and tons of books that, we jot notes down, and we get to a certain point, and then the next day it's like, you know what, I don't know if that's going to fly, let's start something new. So, we'd be scripting something and putting something together. And so I have tons of material that me and Richard attempted to go and start. So it got to a point where me and Richard sat down and he had kind of got involved with building this Magellan world. And during that time, I couldn't spend too much time with him because I had a huge Chinese production going on with China. I wound up producing the Monkey King franchise with Donnie Yen, and that was just a huge endeavor. And I couldn't really sit and spend too much time in LA because I was coming back and forth from China. So um, he would call me every night. We would talk. We would discuss things. Some of my CG team he would talk to. He would have people come in. We would be collaborating all this material over the phone, and then our teams would go out and build it and put it together. And then he would ask me about story. But we spent very little time together, and I think Richard wanted me to be more involved with that. And so when I got back from China, Magellan was already coming to a point where he wasn't getting the financing he needed, and it started to lose steam. So he had said to me that he was going to do a comic book, a manga, graphic novel, and he was going to broaden that franchise by products and make it more valuable. And I thought that was a great way to go because it just didn't seem the financing was coming in, and it was hard for him to keep up with that. During that time, I said, Rich, I said, what you should probably do is, because you're really passionate and you are Battlestar, it doesn't have to end. Just because the studio doesn't want to do something, it doesn't mean it has to end. He's like, well, what are you going to do? So I said, well, we could pitch them. We could bring some ideas. Let's push it to that next level. And that's all about what I do in life. I never know how to quit. I always push it, push it, push it. If I have a vision or want something done, I go the distance until that gets done. I don't, if I'm passionate enough about something, there's nobody stepping in my way or going to stop me because, that's what we want to, accomplish. So me and Richard made a pact at that point. And he said, you know what? Let's reboot Battlestar. Let's do whatever it takes to bring Battlestar back. How are we going to do this? So at this point, I was in LA, and Richard said to me, I think what we'll do is let's create a fan film. And I said, yeah. I says, let's get bigger than that. Let's try to do something bigger, So at this point, I said, what is your objective? What do we want to do here? He says, really want to reboot and get Battlestar back out there. And at this point, all of a sudden, the trades started happening, and Ron Moore started releasing information that he's got some ideas to reboot as well. So Richard said to me, oh, no, he doesn't. Oh, no. So we sat down and we decided that we were going to create and produce our own version, which was basically what they came out to be as Galacticon, that we put together, the 25th anniversary Galacticon, and do a whole Battlestar convention so we can reboot it, and not only reboot it, bring all the fans there and the actors, but also put Richard in the limelight again for Battlestar so he wouldn't get left behind if something did happen. So we ventured off and we did Galacticon, and what an experiment that was. We decided we were going to do it in the center of Universal, right in front of all the executives, the industry, the studios. We, instead of us doing it on some convention center in Texas, we said, let's do it right at Universal.
Oh, wow.
This way they can't get away from us. So, we put out our flyers. I owned a server farm, so I broadcasted it all over the internet. We put it up on BattlestarGalactica.com, and we went to town. And sure enough, we got a good amount of the actors to participate, and we got everybody was a little weirded out because I got from Dirk and Herb and different they kind of looked at Richard like, why is an actor doing this? Why is they didn't see him as the producer yet at that point. They seen him as the actor, So I took a lot of slack for it at that point. I said, well, we're producing it. We're putting this together, whether you like it or not, okay?
Wow.
So we wound up producing Galacticon, the 25th anniversary DVD, and then we did the obviously did the entire convention in Universal. And the fans, of course, all us fans, a lot of us like the 1978. Why do we like it? It's the original. It's positive. It's a buddy film. It doesn't get too political. It takes your mind to another place. Okay?
Right.
Richard loved that. I mean, I could watch those episodes over and over and over. And then at the end of when it's done, I feel good about myself. I feel I want to see it again, but I also feel like, I'm complete when I watch those shows. So during the convention, we had several pitch sessions going on. We had Tom DeSantos, who produces the Transformers. We set him up with a pitch, and him and Bryan Singer did a beautiful presentation for their reboot, and really, really liked what they were doing, which was fantastic. And then Ron Moore obviously came in and did his pitch in front of the fans, and Tom got a basic standing ovation. They loved what he was doing. When Ron came into the picture, I didn't think we were going to have the problems we did. I walked out of the room, and apparently the fans were so built up by Richard Hatch being a part of any new Battlestar. When Ron came up there and started talking about what he wanted to do, what everybody wanted to hear was, what's Richard's part? And this is Gregory, one of our security guys, and he had to stand up there because Ron got bombed with food. They threw tomatoes at him and bananas.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Stuff. So Greg had to stand up there and kind of withdraw that because Ron didn't really, his vision was in a different direction. That was one issue from the fans. And then the second one was he didn't talk enough about Richard in bringing Richard into this. And this whole convention, and everybody knows that's what, Battlestar is really about. It's Captain Apollo and Starbuck. And if those actors are still around and, living and can act, everybody felt that, you should continue that. So I felt really bad for Ron. But he played it off very well. He continued his speech and went through everything. So after the entire convention was done, I guess it was a couple weeks later, and me and Richard are sitting, we're at our place on the couch, and we were talking about it, going over something. The phone rings, and sure enough, it's Ron Moore. And he's glued to the phone. He's like, it's Ron. And I'm like, wow. And sure enough, Ron had asked him, I'd like to discuss, some things with you because I think there's a character that you can play here. Richard he bought dinner that night. Let's put it that way. He was so happy. We went out for sushi and, he was just thrilled that this was going on. So he had a meeting with Ron, and then he was going to find out exactly what was going on and so on and so forth. The interesting thing is, during this all, me and Richard would spend, one of our great fun places that we would go would be Wailea, Maui. We would spend 2-3 weeks out there, and we would vacation. And during that time, during all this rebooting of Battlestar and trying to figure out, how to keep this franchise going and, how to move forward and get more out there for the fans, I started actually writing some stories on Battlestar on my own. and I didn't know where it was going at the time. And my thoughts were, you know, to try to help the franchise and put a spin on it, put some of my light in it, see if that would, actually going anywhere. I completed the first script, and I had mentioned something to Richard, and he says, "All right, well, let me take a look at it. Let me see what it's all about." And while I was waiting for him to do that, I wound up building a second, and then eventually a third. And Richard got them all at once, and he took him probably 6 months or so to actually read them. When he read them, he comes back to me. He says, "Jesus, is this all from you?" And he's like, "Wow, this is blowing me away. Why did you show me this before?" And I'm like, and I think he liked them so much because it was a continuation of the 1978-79, the original. And that's what it's always been about for me. And so I started building on that. And then Richard said, "Do you mind if I tweak some stuff and take notes?" And sure, I gave him the masters and let him play with it and do what he wanted. He came back to me with a version, and he said, "You know what? I have a meeting with Glen Larson, and me and Glen Larson are supposed to be talking about, I guess there was something going on there with discussions after Second Coming he put together." So we went and met Glen Larson for dinner one night. And the conversation was supposed to be about Second Coming, something that Glen was interested in. It had to do with the Pegasus. And, they wanted to talk about this. I was just an innocent bystander at the point. But I had my briefcase, my scripts, my video, everything that I have done for the Battlestar scripts. So I wound up handing Glen at some point during this meeting the scripts that I wrote, and said that I had an idea, that I put some stuff together. And he really didn't want to hear that too much. He's got his thing and so on and so forth. But then I pulled out a disc and put it in my laptop, and I actually had CGI graphics of a new Pegasus, a new Cylon,
Oh wow.
some new environments, and a bunch of synopsises. So Richard got up and went to the bathroom, and Glen just said, he says, "Let me take a look at that." So he started looking at the synopsis of what I had, and he was very interested and said, "You mind if I take some of this? Can I, He was telling me he was involved with the Wing Commander producer, Todd Moyer, at the time,
Okay.
trying to do some sort of reboot. And, I was, and I was just honored that, he was going to look at that. And, we had some mutual background, me and Glen, because my partner for my company is the ex-president from Universal TV that greenlit Battlestar Galactica in 1978. So we have a very interesting background now. And it's funny because later on, we'll discuss a little bit about him too, on how that came to be. But so Ron wound up taking all my material and said that he was, he would get back to me. He was very interested in some of the story involved the Pegasus in my scripts, where you want to hear a little bit about the story, or?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I just wrote it down. I just want to ask you about it.
I was thinking to myself, I hope afterwards I can get a hold of these.
So where it made it interesting is I'm bred and brought up in film, and I like going to theatrical more than I like putting on television. So my thoughts were, I'd like to get a 3-picture deal to go directly to cinema instead of television. I was really more into, that's why I wrote this trilogy for a theatrical release. And that's what I told Glen. And, he was more focused a lot on television, like he always is with, the millions of, TV shows that he did. And so, when he took all the stuff and looked at it, and he was very happy with what he was seeing, I think he still had something going on, but I think my scripts were similar to something that he was getting involved with. And I got a couple of phone calls. We had a couple other meetings with Richard about it, and Richard was gung-ho because he's all over my scripts. He's the star, you know, he's the lead in everything. So where my piece starts out is that the Galacticon was, they had a new engineering division on their ship, and it was involving what they call paleoacoustics, and it's basically sound vibrations that you can predict where something is going to be by objects, but it only can be done. It only could be done in certain areas, because it's kind of like here on Earth we have the periodic table. If we were to go to Mars, there's a whole new periodic table of elements. So when you're in space, this type of technology was only good in its own airspace or area, but you could actually predict where something was going to go or be. So in other words, if the Viper was chasing a Cylon, you know exactly where he's going to head by bouncing off of sound waves off of him and detecting where his future is going to be. So what happened, the engineering department opened up a void, and that void that opened was this electrical storm. And Captain Apollo and Starbuck were sent down on a routine patrol to see what this disturbance was, because the Galactica was headed in that direction and they couldn't get around it. So they wound up going into this electrical storm, and Starbuck gets hit by some debris and thrown out of it, but yet Captain Apollo goes right through it. And then all of a sudden he doesn't see anything. His Viper shuts down and he's sitting there, you know, stuck in space, talking to himself, trying to figure out what's going on. Little does he know that there's two Cylons coming up from behind him. And he gets wind and sees that, and he's nervous as hell. He can't do anything about it. And what they do is they put a tractor beam on him, and they start pulling him in. Well, he thinks, all right, this is done. We're done with this. You know, this is ridiculous. I'm done, you know. So it gets to a point where he sees in ahead of him the Galactica. But what happens is that Galactica winds up being the Pegasus. And the Cylons take him right into the bay and inside the Pegasus.
Whoa.
There's a whole new world I created here. What happens is,
Sounds
Captain
like Mirror Universe
Apollo
stuff.
he is freaked out. He wouldn't get out of the Viper. He was hiding in there. He didn't know what was going on. Kane winds up coming out and knocking on the Viper window. And he looks up and he's freaked out. He's like, there's Cylons here. What are you doing? Get in here. There's Cylons here. Freaking out. What happened? He wound up going into another dimension that this electrical storm created. And Captain Kane built a version of the Cylons because there was a bigger biological threat to humanity. And they couldn't get at the Cylons because they were robots. So now the robots in this capacity and this program are our friends. So they're actually helping us what we need. So this is just a little taste of that.
That's a pretty cool idea.
There's a whole world there that I built. To sum it up with you guys, Apollo winds up in part 2, winds up after he lives this whole world of part 1. Apollo goes through the gate again, winds up getting back to the Galactica, okay? And obviously he shows the Galacticon what happened and so on and so forth, and what's going on with the Pegasus. In chapter 3, and I don't want to ruin it too much, but they do find what they're looking for, except is Earth there or isn't it, and why? And that's how I left it off. And I don't want...
Spoiler
they do
alert.
reach the 13th colony, okay? Glen had a little bit of issues, and he was actually talking to me about the ending. But I think it got to a point where, you know, at some point when Ron's reboot was happening, and that all started to go, and then obviously Glen got sick at some point, And that kind of, we never went any place. And then obviously now we don't have Richard here. What my plans are is that the screenplays, obviously I can't, I pitched Universal with them. I sat down, we had a pitch presentation. Richard was there twice on 2 occasions. I know Richard was just freaked out about that. He loved the idea. He was pushing Universal. We had some great meetings with them. But now, since he's not around anymore, my thoughts are I'm probably, because we can't replace, I will never replace him as an actor. I just can't do that. That was meant for him. So I'm going to try to convert them to books and release them as books.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I think that's the best way. Now, there's another thing that I have, and I have to talk a little bit further with Richard's son, Paul, because I actually have Richard's last book that he was putting together, not finished. And wow. I don't want to finish the book. That's his writing. That's what he wrote. I want the fans to see, it's not up to me to finish it no matter what. So I'm going to talk to Paul, and I think me and Paul may try to put our notes at the end, and some personal things about us with Richard and so forth as a bonus to the fans, and release the book as is and get it out there so they have it and they can see it and they can see what he was working on, because it does no help sitting on my desk. And, it needs to be out there. This is his work. This is what he would have wanted.
That would be amazing.
So I think the fans would appreciate that.
Crazy. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You heard it here first. Nobody's heard this before. We didn't even know.
Yeah, we knew that. We talked about the book once before, right, Chris? We mentioned that it came up, and we were like, imagine if that book was available. Who has it? Where is it? Yep. And here it is. Now we know where it is. Yeah. And if we were to put it out, Mike, if the fans knew that it's a possibility, there's a lot of traction.
It's definitely a possibility. It's more than a possibility. I wouldn't have it any other way. If the fans want it, I want it. I'm a fan of the whole, the whole franchise myself. And, I just try to make the franchise better and work with it and keep it going and keep, Richard alive and keep, the cast alive. That's why I don't want to see it be shelved. Yeah. Yeah. It's got too much power, too much juice. It hasn't even touched where it could go. And it's funny because the new reboot that's supposed to happen, Sam lives in Jersey, not too far from me.
Nice.
So you got to go knock on his door and say, "Hey, Sam, come here." Let's
listen,
talk.
Man, come on. We got to work this.
Yeah, you don't.
I got to tell you, Michael.
You don't need a reboot of the reboot. You need a reboot. Of the original.
we got something better than that. As a matter of fact, I want to just shout out to Lee, our own John 1, Lou, and Michael. We have Charlene Donatello, who was involved with the original Battlestar Galactica fan club. And she says, "Thank you, Michael. I knew you had the rest. We need that ending."
You are welcome. And yes, it is. As long as I will do my very best to get that out. There's nothing going to stop me, actually. So if I have to release that on the net, make it public knowledge, it is so it is. But the fans will see it. The fans will see it. I don't want it sitting here. I want you all to enjoy Richard's writing and, to see what he was working on. And, it's funny because there's dates in there. And the dates are right up until, I guess it was December of 2016.
Yep.
So Michael, real quick, a couple other shout outs. We have Mediocre Modeler is with us, and George Giacomis is with us as well. But I wanted to ask you, what, if anything, would you need to actually light the fire and get that work out?
Well, let me state that there's so much more to tell. Let's step back a little bit, and let me tell you that. So, me and Richard, during all this, we produced a couple of features together. Um, we had prepared and put together a movie called Marsland 2096.
Oh, wow.
And during this whole time, Richard planned on directing and I was producing. We had scripts, we had graphics, we had everything we needed. It was something that we were in development for over 6 or 7 years, I guess. The last 2 years of his life, I broke ground in the studio and started building the scenery, the ships, the environments. And every time Richard was in Jersey, we went to a soundstage and we were shooting actual principal photography on green screens and on a soundstage to get this moving. We have pretty much shot. It's a big budget film. It obviously takes place with a lot of CG, and I didn't get to finish it with Richard's character, and obviously he's not here. So this is another project that we started, and I guess I get about 35 minutes or so of visuals that we shot and edited of this with a basic storyline. I just don't have Richard to close out the story. And I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that yet. But at some point, I may want to raise funding to finish these, to get these out, and put them on the market, let people see what Richard, his work. Marsland was something he was very passionate about. And it was his first directing feature of this type that me and him got to work on, that was actually in production, that was moving in a great direction that he liked. So at some point I will share that with the fans and with everybody. And if worse comes to worse and it's too big of a budget to get finished, and I never really believed in crowdfunding. I'm old school. I go to get private equity, private investments. I feel that crowdfunding cheapens the project. But you know what? I have to get over that a little bit too, because here we are in 2021 and people are doing this all over. So, maybe we'll do a crowdfund for some of this and get it finished and get them out there. Worst case scenario, I'll just tour a Comic-Con and I'll put all this material together unfinished and do a bunch of panels and showings of it throughout Comic-Con and let the fans see it that way. But, I would love to see it finished. I always finish what I start. It's just sometimes, things are so big. And this is like a $10 million feature. And It's a lot of money. So, with guerrilla, what they say, filmmaking, I can get it done a lot cheaper. And I have a lot of good teams around me. And I have my own special effects team now that we can do, pennies on the dollar, but it's still going to cost money. So I really want to hear from the fans. What do you want done? What do you want me to release? If I get enough people that are interested and think I should do crowdfunding, let me know. Do you want to see this? Do you want me to get it out? I really want to hear from the fans, because that's the most important thing. Otherwise, I will put it together the best I can, and it's unfinished, and we will just do a Comic-Con, a couple Comic-Cons, and the public will see it that way, and everybody else. So, but I would love to finish it if that was possible, because we created some great worlds in there, great key actors. We have great environments, and we got a lot behind it. I actually sat with Richard in my garage and we built an environment with tunnels. It was a toy train set, and we had cameras and robot cameras and all this stuff set up, and we were shooting these train fight scenes. And I built a model of Richard, of his character, and instead of having him on the miniature, we had the models in CG after we put it in the computer and did those effects. Unbelievable special effects. But unfortunately, I'm put in this situation where it's just too expensive to finish. So we'll see. I want to hear from the fans. Let's see what the fans want.
That would be, and that would technically be his last film.
Yes, that technically would be. Now, well, actually,
Yeah.
so I guess it was 3 months before he passed. He shot and did a special appearance in something in my Monkey King franchise.
Oh.
So
Oh, wow.
he's in that as well, and yeah. So for those stories that are going on out there on the web about being his last production, I got another thing to say to you.
Uh-oh.
There's no shortage of projects coming out yet with Richard. So, not to mention, they're still floating around there. We did 27 episodes of Who the Frack, and I think we sold 7 or 9 of them to some Canadian TV station years ago. So at some point, they'll be out there, on the network someplace. So there's a lot of Richard coming out yet. There definitely is a lot of Richard, and he wants this stuff. He'd want to have this stuff out there. I mean, he worked so hard on all this,
right.
So, but one of the other things that I promised Richard that I'd like to work with the fans with is, I want to do and produce, it's in the works right now, 2 documentaries on Richard. Richard, on his last days, had asked me he asked me a bunch of things. And one of the things he asked is if I could build and put his world together in a documentary. And I'm actually going to produce 2. One is going to be a professional one, which involves his careers. His Battlestar, his interaction with the cast, interaction with the studio, him as a businessman, him as that professional actor. And I'm in talks with some people from the family, the Battlestar family, that is, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but somebody famous that will actually direct it. And that will be the first documentary. The second one, because Richard had such a diverse world, I want to do a documentary that's more personal, friends and family. Richard as a personal human being, somebody who is not on that, acting podium, talking to the fans and everything. I want people to see who Richard really was. I want to get Paul in there. I want to get, some of his family life and his friends and that social life. So we're going to produce a second one as well and get those 2 out. So I may wind up, we have some money, some financing for that. I'm going to need more. So maybe we do crowdfunding. Once again, I want to hear from the fans. I want to see what the demand is and what they want. And if I should even go that route. If not, I already spoke to the studios. The studios aren't really interested. They're only interested in multi-million-dollar projects and,
Right.
Stuff like that nature. So, this is very low budget, documentaries. I mean, when's the last time you went and paid for a documentary out there? You don't.
Right. You just don't go to a movie theater for a documentary.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're low budgets, and
right.
We'll have to wind up shooting this, to cut the budgets down at a lot of conventions and stuff when we can interview actors and, the Battlestar crew and stuff like that.
It can be done. It can be done, Mike. As a matter of fact, look, we have Janet Jenkins and we have Linda Russell says, thank you, Michael. Yes, ending, please. And amen to everything you were saying. So,
can I say something about that real quick, Pete?
Go absolutely.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to say something. Linda Russell is a sweetheart. First of all, I want to give her so much credit because she has kept Richard alive. And she does such magical things on her page that she creates and keeps the fans together. She keeps, friends and family together. And she keeps it real, She keeps it real, and she's, I'm really glad that, she came into the picture and, she's helped out. And I think Richard today, if he was alive, he'd be really, really happy with who Linda is, because she's just a real down to earth person and really cares about who he was, and keeping the aspect of him as a person and who Richard really is, clean. And I just wanted to say to Linda, thank you so much. Appreciate everything. And, everybody go up and join our page.
Absolutely. So Mike, she responds back, says, we're interested, Michael. And Charlene Donatello tells us Richard's fans are always interested in supporting him, keeping the faith to say, you ask and we will come through. So,
Okay.
these
Thank
are
you.
some
Thank
of the leaders in the community. So we're super interested. You know that we got your back on this. I'm also interested in knowing if you're pursuing, in terms of the Battlestar, not your Monkey King and the other stuff, but just sticking on the Battlestar, Michael, graphic novels, right? You did kind of mention it. Is that something that you would entertain?
Sure. You know what? There's a lot of things with licenses we have to go through and so on and so forth with all that. But yeah, of course, I would even be interested in, perhaps I own a game company that builds games, and we do augmented reality and virtual reality, and we build for PlayStation and Xbox. So I'd be interested in building a Battlestar game world based off the original.
Oh, wow.
Battlestar. I mean, really interested in that. At some point, I'd love to see if I can talk to the studios about that, to bringing that forth, because and you know what, I can probably use a lot of imagery and some of the video that I have of Richard that we've done right in the game and build it into the game. Maybe even get involved with a Marsland game and use Richard's clips.
Wow,
if I get the actual movie done, let me use all the footage, build it into a game.
Oh yeah,
so yes, I would be interested in all that.
That's
well, look, Michael, everybody out there knows that these days, especially unfortunately, during the pandemic and the COVID thing, there's dozens of successfully crowdfunded documentaries, shorts, and films.
Yep.
Code 8 with Stephen Amell and his cousin, Veronica Mars, and others that have raised a substantial amount of money. Others, like you said, that were made, produced, and got out there. Some of them have actually been nominated for awards, and some won. Yeah. Look at the Star Trek franchise.
Yeah.
Their documentaries are all crowdfunded, and they're highly successful. There's one right now that is off the charts. The amount of money that they raised is just going through the roof for the Voyager documentary. So I think you should definitely, like you said, you're open to it. I think that, if the fans are willing, and our age group, right, we are the basis, the backbone for Battlestar Galactica 1978. I think this is the time to get it out there. If we're going to move on it, I think this is the time to do it.
Well, I want to first, let's I know you guys are hearing from fans and stuff. I want to see that, the fan base in the majority. I mean, we don't just need 5 or 6 people. I want to see how that's going to work. Right. And if we're actually going to be able to raise the money that we need. So what I will do is start working on some budgeting and figuring out what it takes to get these projects to see the light of the day. And, once again, I'm a fan. I want to see it out too. And it doesn't matter to me, how it gets out there, but I'd rather see them finished. So, and when it comes to the games and stuff, yeah, I'd love to build this franchise even bigger, and whatever I can do for, Universal and the fan base just to build this, I'm here. And, they're all aware of who I am. I've been there many times and done several pitch sessions, and, so I will look into that. And the thing is that if I decide and if we're ready to do this, I will let you guys do a post,
Cool.
and then we can go from there and
Yeah.
move forward. I don't think this is going to be our last rodeo, gentlemen.
Thank the
I
Lords of
definitely
Football.
don't think so. So one of the John Van Gostein is part of our staff, and he asked a question that I think is worthy for me to bring up. And he said, "What was the best words of advice that Richard gave you?"
That's a great question. Because Richard would, we spent so much time with each other, and we're totally two different animals. And I come from a very crazy business background over the years. Once, I built my career, I mean, you have to be a businessman when you're in this industry. And the one thing that happened to me is that I always would put up my guard. I always put up my guard because I never let my hair down, because I'm always afraid either somebody's going to take something, stab me in the back or something, or, it's a crazy business world out there, and it's Hollywood. So, Richard used to, and this is just one of many, but Richard used to tell me, hey, Mike, if you're going to be on Who the Frack and we're going to have you, you got such a great character, you got to open up. You got to talk. You got to talk to everybody and let them know who you are. I don't, no, not this businessman. I don't want this businessman or this gullible kid or whatever. Let them know who you are. And he used to have many talks with me on this, and unfortunate, I play so many roles that, it's very hard to know who I'm talking to and what my focus is, and to let my hair down, because I don't know if people in the world realize this, but I can't tell you how many times I protected Richard from getting into situations that would have caused a lot of problems, because, Richard was, he was a special, special person. He had a way of pulling things out of you to making you who you are. He made everybody feel, special. And it would really open up your soul. It was amazing. Even when he had an ego, and threw his ego out there. His ego wasn't like, an ego you'd know of. He'd have an ego with a big smile. I mean, it was crazy, I mean, you'd never know that he even had an ego. And so I think one of the things, there's a couple. There was, him telling me that as a person. There was also a lot of advice he gave me when we were building scenes and characterization and, the magic for the big screen. He would always tell me in a script, that it's not about the ending and where we're going in the ending. That's important, but not that important. It's what we build on that journey to that. So we want to spend as much time reliving those characters ourselves and building that characterization, and not so be so concerned about the 3-act structure of the script. That was, and enjoy it. He wanted me to enjoy it, not to get to a point where, we went through this, got to get this done, got to put a business proposal, got to do a budget. Enjoy what you're doing. And I've learned a lot of that as I sat with him as he wrote his books. We'd be in Maui. We frequented it to a lot of places, and I'd see him writing and enjoying himself as he was writing. And then, sure enough, he'd be like, "Okay, I'm done." He had his book. I'm like, "Wait a minute," So there's the other thing about Richard is that I'm quite younger than him, and I always hang out with people who are older than me, because I learn a lot from them, and I get to get the feedback. I get to see what I'm doing wrong. I get to, fix my mistakes. I get to learn from their mistakes. And so I could go on for a book in itself just to tell you how much I've learned from Richard himself, between a person, between the businessman and him, between just the friend. of our friendship and what he's, taught me about life. So there's a lot. That's a real good question though, because I could go on forever. So, but yeah, that's my answer.
Well, that sounds like a book in and of itself, Mike. Marianne Bardo is with us, and she says,
Hi,
Michael,
Marianne.
love what you're doing. And Richard mentioned the eighth book to me when I was his student. He mentioned so many other wonderful projects he wanted to come to light that you mentioned. Thank you for all that you are doing. And Linda then also added, put the franchise on the page. And Sherry's out there as well. So thanks for watching. And
thank
so,
you. Means a lot to me.
The responses are coming, right? They're trickling in, and this is what we want to hear.
I want to know that I'm doing the right thing for the fans. I'm here for the fans when it comes to Battlestar. I'm a fan. I grew up as a fan. So, if I have enough, of the fan base that is behind me on this, hey, I'll make anything happen. I'll make anything happen. So, you guys let me know, and I will direct my energy in that direction.
Yeah, I think
outstanding.
I think the biggest challenge. Yeah, the biggest. Sounds
great.
Love it. I think the biggest challenge
we will knock
has
down
been
every wall that they put up in front of us.
Yep.
How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. So I think our biggest challenge is
so say we all.
Yes. So say we all.
The biggest challenge is getting the information to the fans that this still exists. It's been, you've waited a number of years in regards to this, and that's it's now coming back out, and there's still a very big thirst out there. There's always a post in just about every Battlestar Galactica fan page talking about the second coming, or some people are like, hey, I didn't even know that there was a movie between between the new and the Ron Moore, the the DeSanto version. People they don't know this information, and the information is now starting to trickle out, and with your help it's gonna tidal wave, and then we'll stir up that fandom base out there is what we really need to get done.
I agree. Battlestar needs to live. There's so much more to tell. There's so much more to do. It's got such a huge fan base. I mean, we did 10, maybe 20,000 people, at Comic-Con, as you guys know, on a panel, and one of the things that Richard, I'll share this with you. There was so much business and so much Battlestar and so much going on with Richard that he was roaming around the world by himself. He was going, he was with strangers every other day, even though they, it wasn't all strangers, but he was put at a point where, he lacked companionship and his friends. So during our travels, the whole scene, it was funny because the one place we lived in was a gated community in Studio City. And the studio apartment that we were in, the next one right next door, it was crazy. They were shooting The Hills reality show. And that was the first reality show of its kind. And they're banging all night, making all kinds of noise. So at that point, I said to myself, it's a reality show. It was kind of cheesy. But then you started getting little bites and pieces of Entourage starting the TV show. But that was in the trial stages out there. So I said to Richard, we should shoot us at all these conventions. We're at a convention every other day. We're at, there's so much going on in our lives. We should shoot this. We should shoot it and do something with it. That's when Who the Frack came up because, and there was so many different directions we were headed with that. So we decided that we were going to do a reality show based on the zany world that we lived in and Richard's friends. And the characters were so unique. And I was never supposed to be even on it. I had no interest at the time. I was more, as I said, on the back of the camera. But I wound up getting inducted into it. And then we had a company that came in that was really interested in the show. And by this time, we've already been shooting for about 6 months. We had little snippets up on the internet, and it really started to pick up speed. And we obviously had Gene, who was like the ringleader, and Derek, who had so many different. I mean, that Derek is something else. He's. I just remember going to a producer's house one day, and he grabbed one of the producer's whips. It was a weapon that was on the wall, and he says, "Come outside with me for a second." He starts whipping this thing, and I have to tell you, when you see Indiana Jones do that, you don't think much of it. But when you see this kid do it, I mean, I was running from that. So there was just so much characterization and interesting stuff that, and it was funny because we could never look at each other straight. There was always something funny or something going on. The topics didn't even need to be scripted because there was so much information. This could be a show all in itself, because I have like 27 something episodes of Who the Frack. 9 I'm not allowed to show because somebody actually purchased that when Richard was alive. So I don't know what they're doing with that, how that's happening. But the material for the shows themselves are one thing. But the behind the scenes footage, I went through probably $20,000 worth of hard drives.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It was just ridiculous. Every day. And because we didn't have a budget, we bought really good cameras, best cameras you can buy at that time, that had like a stabilizer on them. Mm-hmm. So you could shoot yourself and it wouldn't be too rocky. So it took a little practice for us, but all the cast members were running around, we were shooting each other. And we all had to get used to doing this. And we built it all around Studio City and Universal. And Richard was really gung-ho about this. He thought it was great. And I thought it was even better than great because we were with the times. We were with the genre where it's accepted. We had Richard in it, which obviously there's your celebrity for the networks, for the draw. And we had the characters. And you had all these locations that we go to for free. If I had to go to St. John and do a shoot there, it cost me a minimum of $50,000. We were there for nothing. Where do you get that production value?
Yeah.
So, I was really building that world. And I mean, I have so much of Richard from that. It's incredible. And at some point, maybe we should do a show and, get some of the cast members and talk about, because the funny moments we've had is just ridiculous. I mean, some of the things that happen, you guys will, I don't know if you will be able to contain yourself. Let's put it that way. Because it is just so fun,
Oh, that's great.
To this day, I still, when I look at me and Richard interacting on some of these, I don't know if you guys realize, but I almost wound up in the hospital 3 times because my abs hurt so bad.
Oh, wow.
I was
really
choking on my own oxygen. It was crazy. I don't know how it's possible to laugh that much, but it's really nuts. But
we just got a message, Mike, from John Van Gostein. Again, he's part of our crew. He says, it would make a great Netflix or Amazon series. Is that something possible? Could that be done?
Yes, it absolutely could.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a deal with my film company now with Amazon. I probably could go that direction, and we could do that. I don't know how that would work with the other network that we already sold, when Richard was alive, but we have so much more to offer. And I'd like to get it all out there. I'd like to get it out there. I'd like the world to see it. So yes, to your answer, yes, it would be a good Amazon series, and it's not that hard to do. I'm looking at Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
Awesome.
Netflix, but I deal with most of the networks for, the products that we, build in Global Star. So one of them, at some point, I just want to let, all the fans know that, being so close to Richard, okay, and being around Richard almost every other day, or at least talking to him every day, I never really seen what happened to him coming. And, I needed quite a bit of time to kind of, deal with. People don't realize that we've had financiers and all kinds of investors and things going on in our life that I had to pick up and try to figure out what are we going to do. I have investments that were made for stuff that we were working on. I had investors to answer in companies and corporations, and it wasn't just so much let's have fun. It was a business end there too.
Mm-hmm.
And when Richard eventually got sick, that was all left with me, and I wasn't sure what direction. So I needed to take some time off from where things really were, because I got into this whole thing because of Richard. When it comes to Battlestar and everything that we were working on, it was such a unique relationship that. So, but I want the fans to know one thing, because I've done some looking on the internet, looking around. Richard would want the world to not mourn him, but to celebrate his life, to remember what he's about, what he's done, who he is, and not the sadness. I understand was there. Things happen, but I don't think Richard wants people and fans to be in that mode. I think we need to celebrate his life. I think it's time that we get into that world, in that time.
Agreed.
I think it's time for me to come out and start putting stuff together, on Richard's life and getting the fans to see that and, honoring him, The last things that I spoke to Richard about was, celebrate, honor him, put some things out, make it happen. And that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah,
outstanding.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, let's leave it open for the next show, because we definitely open door. We want you to come back. You have plenty more. We want to talk about your personal martial art career. You've done stunts. You've produced other things. The Monkey King franchise, aerospace, NASA. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to get out. There's plenty more Battlestar. There's plenty more stories. And Sean is with us as well. Sean, absolutely celebrate Sean. Richard. So, we definitely want you to come back, Michael. I know you got a lot of projects going on, but we definitely would like to start figuring out, maybe we can have you on multiple times whenever your openings are available. And there's plenty of story here, and we're so happy that you took the time out and you chose us to come on board. And we're big fans. If it wasn't for Battlestar, Chris and I wouldn't be doing this show.
No, we
right. This is all because of Battlestar Galactica. That's how we met. That's how we put this together. And it's been a great honor. We really thank you, and a pleasure for coming on board and taking your time out. And I know you're on studio and you're working on stuff, but thank you so much, Michael. Chris,
thank you to you guys. Thank you for having me. I want to thank all the fans out there for supporting us, to believing in Richard, to believing in this, franchise, and to watching this broadcast tonight. Let's hope and move forward. Let's make these things happen. Let's do whatever we have to do to break down these walls. And hey, as long as I'm aboard here, I'm not going to stop. So, that's the one thing about me. So as long as I got the drive behind me, I'll lead.
All right. Well, you got it. You got it, at least from us and from our fans, and the legions of fans that we have and we've been building up. That we're all Battlestar 100%. So say we all, Michael. So
say we all.
We're there.
All,
so
gentlemen.
Yes. That's it. That's the way to do it. Chris, any final comments? Or
I think it's just like we always say, that the fans feel the fleet. At this point, we got to feel that fleet. We've got a number of projects that are available to get done. We kind of start feeling up each one of those projects, figure out which one's going to take off and lead the fleet out the rest of the way. So I think it's important.
Hey guys, I want to say one more thing before I go, just so you guys are aware of it. For the past year now, the networks have been shooting around me. my dad's career and the whole thing I talked to you at the beginning of the show, that is going to be, they're doing a biography on my family now that I'm going to be in.
Oh, wow.
So they shot around the studios that my dad owns, the building I own. My family owns one of the last movie studio in New Jersey that exists. The Barrymore company has now got a film museum in Fort Lee, New Jersey that they put together. And the New Jersey Film Commission, Tom Myers, is building up the community to realize that, hey, this is where it all started. Let's build this. So the networks are shooting a full 1 hour around me. They've been shooting for a year, and there's all kinds of celebrities and people. Richard's in that too, by the way, guys.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, talking about me and so forth. And I have I love working with first-time directors and producers and giving people the opportunity out there. And there's a lovely young woman named El Saray Rodriguez that is a terrific person that is directing this. I think it's going to be really good. And it'll probably hit a couple of theaters to get a theatrical release because it's a history piece. And then it will be on Netflix and iTunes and all that stuff. So I just want to plug that to let people know that that's something that I have been working on for a year now. And, it will wind up coming out, and you can look for that. And I'll obviously announce that to you guys.
Please let us know on that.
Oh, yeah. If there's a trailer that comes with that, we'd love to put it up.
I think you can expect that in about a month from now.
Oh, cool.
Oh, fantastic.
As long as we
Oh, man.
As long as you don't get in trouble for putting it up. That's been something in the past.
You won't get in trouble. Don't worry.
we get copyright strike for playing a trailer that's on YouTube. Like, how does that happen?
Hey, Tipsy Toaster, I got you covered. Don't worry.
So Mike, maybe around that time, time permitting, we could try to have you come back. We'd love to have you come back. Maybe announce that and take up where we left off, because there's definitely a heck of a lot of things we want to hear from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more, as I say. I haven't even told you the half of it, so I'll let you guys sleep on all that and see where we're at, and we'll reconvene. Don't worry.
Oh, that's great. That would be awesome.
Everybody out there that's watching this broadcast, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for watching. I hope I didn't bore you at all.
Oh.
And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think, sharing the moments you've had and the exciting news announcements that it's coming up. So it's going to push this fandom a little farther. I know.
Absolutely.
The movies are coming out, and this is just another thing.
It has been a journey, Chris.
Yep. It sounds like it's a really
and we're going to keep going. And we're going to keep going.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So,
as long as I got breath in my lungs, I'll be here. So.
Absolutely. We're Battlestar all the way. So everyone, thank you again for tuning in. Again, greatest pleasure to have you on board, Mike. Thank you for stopping in, taking your time out from your projects and doing all the stuff you do. So, Chris, I think there's a lot to be done, and we have our work cut out for us. And, man, I'm looking forward to seeing some of that stuff you talked about, Mike. We're gonna hound you a little bit. Man, we're dying. So look, we're gonna do a part 2, part 3.
We're hungry.
As long as as long as you have time for us, Mike, like I said, you're always welcome. Open door policy. And there's gonna be a couple of celebrations, Mike. So let's put that out now. We're gonna hold back on this, but since you're here, we're gonna be celebrating our birthday, our anniversary, our first anniversary. And so we're going to have a celebration.
Happy birthday.
And, oh, yeah. Wow. IFB has been on now for just a slight bit over a year. And we're going to do a celebration. And we're going to put it out. We're going to invite all the fans. We're going to have a super cast. And we're going to have some prizes and some entertainment. We want, you to be one of our honored guests, Mike. And so that's in the wings. And so we're announcing it tonight, being that you're here with us. So that's going to happen. And we also do trivia. We've done trivia, Mike. So if you're willing and you can, carve out a little bit more time, we do Battlestar trivia. And we did this with an up-and-coming award-winning sci-fi author. and we had the battle between the Cylon Empire and the colonies, and
Nice.
I whipped the Tipsy Toaster.
Nah.
So we usually, yeah. See now, Chris
Hey,
is gonna
Pete,
just
watch
all
the
right.
video. Yeah.
Hey, Pete, Chris,
Yeah.
I just want to say
watch
one
the
thing.
video.
I'll watch the video, but let me say one thing. It comes with a thumb war. That's all I can say.
That's gonna be hard to do virtually.
Excellent.
Yeah, thumb
All
fighter.
right, just so you know, virtual or not, it comes with a thumb war. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, everybody, tune in next Thursday for our next broadcast on IFB Interfleet Broadcasting. Don't forget to leave us the thumbs up and watch for us on Twitter. We have various YouTube, Twitter, of course, Facebook, and a couple of other mediums that we're actually inhabiting. So don't forget to, stop by, drop a couple of messages, give us those thumbs up. Don't forget, because, look, I'm slightly guilty of that myself. Sometimes I'll get so excited when I'm reading and I forget to give that thumbs up. We want those. We need those. So please sign up. We invite everybody to come back and join us for our next broadcast. And we're going to have more. We're going to have more of Mike and Mike again. Thanks for coming on. And we
To the
are
fans?
definitely.
To the fans.
So say we all.
So say we all.
So
That's
say
I
we
wanna
all.
say. So say
Thank
we
you.
all, guys.
Thank you guys for
I'm
showing.
out. I'll see
Y'all
you
take
later.
care and stay
We'll be in
safe.
touch, okay?
All right.
Stay
Bye,
safe, everybody.
Stay safe.